Hi, everyone. Thank you for coming. This thing's too short. There we go. I'm Tom Davidov and son. We have people here that come from a long way. Some from here in the valley, some from the East Coast, and some who drove a very long way to get here through snowstorms. So thank you everybody for being here. After the service, we're going to have a reception outside. It's a beautiful day. I think this location, especially the location outside, is incredibly appropriate for this memorial. The house that my parents built is right across the way there and has the same view as we'll be looking at over here at Pinnacle Peak, which they love the desert, they love living out here, and they love that view. So I'm glad that we're doing it here. So Anne came into my life when I was 10 years old. So she was around for almost all the formative years of my life. From the very beginning, it was very clear to me that she and my dad were incredibly in love. They did everything together. They worked together, they vacationed together, they went on work trips together, they took us on vacation together. They were together all the time, and that's the way that they wanted it. For the last 12 years, they haven't been together. Well, now they are. So I'm happy for both of them for that. I'm pretty sure that they're both sitting around a table somewhere, drinking coffee out of styrofoam cups and smoking cigarettes. As I reflect on Anne, what kept coming to the front of my mind was two things: class and care. Anne was incredibly classy. From the way she dressed to the way she spoke, in her manners, and she, passed that on to all of us. You can see in any family picture you look at, and in the slideshow that we were just watching, she's always dressed incredibly. Maybe us not so much, but she tried. She was also one of the most unbelievably caring people that I've ever met. So she had a calling to be a nurse. She went to nursing school. She cared for an endless amount of people. But she also cared for my dad in the last years of his life, and I think without her, he would have had many less years around. And she said that was her greatest honor, was caring for him at the end of his life. But it wasn't just caring for us physically. She was always there whenever you needed to talk to her. I would call her when I had problems with my kids, and she had experience because she had problems with us. She always gave great advice. In the last few years, that was on the porch at Atria, again, smoking coffee or drinking coffee and smoking cigarettes. And I think what I'll miss the most is those conversations and just her advice. We're going to try to keep the service pretty quick, so I'll end it there. I'm going to pass it on to Albert David.
Hi, everyone. The first reading of today is
There we go. Can you take it out and hold it?
So today, the first reading is from John chapter 16, verse 22. And it goes, "So with you, now is your time to grieve. But I will see you again, and you will rejoice, and no one will take away your joy." The second reading is from Matthew chapter 5, verse 4, which is, "Blessed are those who mourn, for they will be comforted." And for the next reading, it will be presented by Mike Hudson.
I thought of you with love today, but that is nothing new. I thought about you yesterday and the days before that too. I think of you in silence. I often speak your name. All I have are my memories and your picture in a frame. Your memory is a keepsake with which I'll never part. God has you in his keeping. I have you in my heart. I'll turn back to you. Just kidding. To Emma, who's going to be singing. Hi, guys. I'm going to be singing a song called Somewhere from West Side Story, and I have that on the program that says, hi, Barbara Streisand, because now you get to compare me to Barbara Streisand. There's a place for us, somewhere a place for us, peace and quiet and open there, wait for us somewhere. There's a time for us, someday a time for us, time together and time to spare, time to learn, time to care, somewhere. Someday we'll find a new way of living. We'll find a way of forgiving somewhere. There's a time for us. A time and place for us. Hold my hand and we're halfway there. Hold my hand and I'll take you there. Somewhere, someday, we'll find a new way of living. We'll find a way of forgiving somewhere. There's a place for us, a time and place for us. Hold my hand and we're halfway there. Hold my hand and I'll take you there. Someday, somehow, somewhere. Thank you.
This reading is called She Is Gone by David Harkins. You can shed tears that she is gone. You can smile because she has lived. You can close your eyes and pray that she will come back. You can open your eyes and see all that she has left. Your heart can be empty because you can see her, or you can be full of love that you shared. You can turn back on tomorrow and live yesterday, or you can be happy for tomorrow because of yesterday. You can remember her and only that she is gone. You can cherish her memory and let it live on. You can cry and close your mind, be empty and turn back, or you can do what she would want, smile, open your eyes, love, and go. Oh, now it's to share.
Most of us started a new life when we moved to Arizona. And we had to start new friendships, introduce ourselves to people, and give them a little bit of our history. So I know most of you probably have a story that you'd love to tell about Anne. So before I met her, Anne talked about starting a book club, and she talked about it and talked about it. And finally, her dear friend Nancy said, well, do it, start a book club. And she did it in November 1999. At the same time, I lived in Glenmore, and Gail Gordon belonged to both book clubs, and she invited me to come to Anne's book club, except that I had to pass Nancy first, which I did, and I joined book club in January of 2000. That's when I first met Anne. So I have actually 10 pages of the books that we read from 2000 to 2016. And aren't you glad I'm not going to read it to you? But Anne and Michael's life started before I met them. They tell the stories that every time somebody moved into the neighborhood, they're there ringing the doorbell with a glass of wine and saying, welcome. And they did that for everybody that they met along the way. Some of you might be some of the people that they met at that time. They always opened up their home to friends, and they wanted you to sit on their back porch, have a sip of wine, tell stories, and maybe even smoked with Anne. I don't know, we didn't. And Anne said with pride that their round table that they had in their kitchen when they moved from Washington, the children would not let them get rid of it because it had so many memories with that table. She said that with pride too, that Michael had a special holiday and she learned how to make all the special dishes for that holiday, and then they shared it with us. They always shared it with the rest of us. Well, I have to say that Michael really did like to eat. It was a joy to cook for him, and I would always send him home with desserts. And somehow, he managed to eat both before Anne got up the next morning. They loved their children and their grandchildren. I stopped over to see Anne one day, and Lisa and Amanda were there. Something came up, and it reminded me of a joke. So I told the joke. We all laughed. And then Anne said to me, I love friends that make my children laugh. So we all have wonderful memories of Anne. Everybody could come up here and say, but life changed when Michael had surgery with complications. Anne was a wonderful caregiver and nurse 24 hours a day. He would hardly let her sleep because he didn't want her to leave him. He was better for a while, and then her life changed when she lost him. Her friends tried to, come over and see her every Friday to encourage her. She loved her home, and she didn't want to leave. But then she had an accident, and she had to move to Adrian. She did meet some loving friends and again started a book club at Adrian. If anything, Anne, I think if you said how much she loved to read, but she also loved to share it with everybody. And so she started a book club at Adrian. Where it had failed before, it didn't fail when Anne created it. I have a cartoon I shared with her. It's a woman in the hospital, and her husband comes to visit her. And he says, if you get in so much crowds, maybe you should find another book club. And she did find another book club. COVID changed all of our lives, and Anne had isolated her, and no one was allowed to visit her, not even leave the building. Some of her dear friends left, and it did change her life. When she finally was allowed out and about, Anne wanted all of her friends and family to come and visit and sit on the back porch like they used to do and chat, maybe have a drink and have a little bit of wine. Of course, the best time, she said, was when her children and our grandchildren came. That is important to her. She had some serious health problems and she wanted to join my book. So today, let's remember all the good times. When you pick up a book and start to read, think of Anne, have a sip of wine, and toast her for all the fun she brought into our lives.
Thank you to everyone for being here today, especially those who traveled from out of town to be with us, like Tom said. The last couple of weeks have been difficult for my brothers and I, and we appreciate all the support that we've gotten from family and friends. While my brothers and I were packing up my mom's belongings, we happened to find a letter from my mom. And it was marked to be opened upon my death. And in this letter, my mom wrote, "I do not want an obituary." So we didn't write an obituary, and that was easy because we didn't want to write an obituary. Secondly, she wrote, "I do not want a memorial service." Well, here we are. And I hope she's not too mad at us. Also in the letter, she wrote, quote, "Please know I loved you all dearly, and I had the most wonderful life imaginable." Nothing more gives us comfort than knowing that. My mom loved us dearly, as she said, and she loved her grandchildren dearly. Sorry. Also, nothing gave her more joy than hearing what her grandchildren were doing. And she was ecstatic to have visits from her grandchildren. My mom talked on the phone a lot. And in her later years, that was her connection to the outside world. She would call her sisters a lot. And she would call my brothers every weekend. And she would call her friends. My mom and I would talk on the phone 4 to 5 times a day. If we didn't speak, it was because I was physically unable to do so. And she would need to know this ahead of time. She and I were close. We were very close. And I'm sure my aunts, my brothers, and my best friend Victoria have noticed an increase in phone calls from me since my mom passed. My mom loved her dear friends from Troon. When we were growing up, my mom had a small number of friends, but many of these were professional friends. At Troon, my parents had many close friends, from the neighborhood, from the cigar club in the early days, and my mom's beloved book club. I cannot talk about my mom without mentioning my dad. I fully believe she stayed alive the last 12 years since his death for us. She is happy now that she is with him. We are sad that she is gone. I was not ready for her to leave, and I'm devastated that she is gone. And I love her dearly too.
Those we love don't go away. They walk beside us every day. Unseen, unheard, but always near. Still love, still miss, and very dear. An Irish blessing. May the road rise to meet you. May the wind always be at your back. May the sun shine warm upon your face, the rains fall softly upon your fields. And until we meet again, may God hold you in the palm of his hand.
Good afternoon. I'd like to echo my siblings. Thanks for coming here. I'm Peter Davidov. Just want you to know, we budgeted an hour for this, so I got about 35 minutes to speak. So I'd like to echo some of the comments from my brother and sister and the excellent eulogy from Mrs. Sheridan. And with so many things to us, like Tom said, she came into our lives a little later. But as I told people, and growing up, I really got to the point where I had two mothers. In one of the last conversations I had with her, I was talking to her on the phone, and she knew she was sick, and she told me she was going. And she said, "I'm so honored to have been your stepmother." And I said, "And I don't look at you as my stepmother, you're my mother. My mother knows you're my other mother, you're my mother." And then she said, "Life is hard." And I said, "Honestly, I know that now at 55 years old. But when you and my father did such a good job, I didn't know that for a long time. They really did an amazing job of raising us and taking care of us. And I really didn't know life was hard for a long time." I know she didn't want a service. Lisa and I told her that was going to happen anyway, so don't she's not going to come on us. We told her it was going to happen, and it wasn't up to her, because it's really for us to mourn. We know that she's happy. Lisa and I had this conversation right after. We said, logically, we know that she's where she wants to be. Emotionally, it's hard. It's hard. The logic doesn't necessarily make the emotion easier. So when I was thinking of Anne, it was so amazing in so many ways. One of the things I thought about, we talked about the role she played as a mother, a nurse, a sister, a daughter. Those of us who knew her, Anne was also a fixer. If there was a problem, Anne would get it fixed. You did not want to be on the other end of a phone having done something that she didn't agree with, because she was going to get that problem fixed. And my dad relied on her for that. I remember when things were tough, Anne often dealt with things my dad didn't want to deal with. When we were in college, my brother came home one night after a late night out, and he'd gotten a little confrontation. And my friend Adam was with him in the kitchen, and he said to Tom, "Hey, Tom, you need to look in the mirror. I don't think your ear's attached." Tom said, "What?" He went to look in the mirror, and sure enough, his ear was mostly unattached. So Tom, using excellent judgment, decided to drive himself to the hospital, even though a nurse and a doctor were sleeping a few rooms away. So he drove himself to Fairfax Hospital, where this, I think, 17, 18-year-old shows up, very happy, had a good time that night. And the hospital says, maybe we should call his father, who is the chief of staff at the hospital. And so they did, and they woke him up. My dad shows up, and Tom was there having a good time, and flirting with the intern treating him. She was rather attractive. And my dad looked at that situation and looked at Ann and said, "I have to make rounds," and left. And there was Ann dealing with that problem. Ann took care of problems. Anytime we ever had something wrong, I knew it was going to be wrong for a long time. I like to think, and it is through a mother, as Lisa talked about, she was a great person to talk to. If I ever needed advice, Ann had it. It was good. I love calling to talk to her. I love sitting on the balcony, getting my secondhand smoke and having a glass of wine. I was joking with my kids on the way out here. Yes, we drove. I'm not the smartest of the siblings. We drove to DC. And we were talking about it. I said, if this were Lisa, Tom, and I, and you were this, we'd be sitting in a cloud of smoke right now. Because back then everyone smoked, and we smoked too. To this day, if I smell cigarettes, it reminds me of both Ann and my father. I remember when they moved to Arizona, it was a time of change. They were very formal people. We talked about the change here. And I will say, they were very formal people. You look at the pictures in black tie, and we actually made the decision not to wear ties today, largely because Lisa, Tom, and I came here the first time in 1996. They picked us up from the airport, and we got in the car, and they were wearing jeans. I had never seen either of them wearing jeans. If we needed a gallon of milk, my dad would put on a jacket and tie to go to 7-Eleven to get a gallon. So they picked us up wearing jeans. We said, well, that's different. something's changed. They seem very happy. And when we went to dinner, they said, it's gonna be casual. We said, okay. So Lisa, Tom and I put on khakis and Oxford and, came out. They're also wearing jeans for dinner. And we go and eat dinner, and we go to sit down, and we go to a window and order, and we sit down on benches. We went to Greasewood Flats. I never imagined them taking us to dinner at a place like this, and things have changed. They were much more relaxed. They met wonderful friends who I really enjoyed meeting, and they were happy. They worked very hard, and they had good years before my father got sick. And so that's the dream. They had 10 really good years out there. And so I was so happy for them. I loved coming to visit and see them. And so I think that's a positive. When I looked at today, and while obviously we are sad she's not here, I'm looking at this as a celebration of life. She had a good life. She had good family. She had accomplished a lot, and she managed to really get to the point where she enjoyed it. And so I'm so happy for them for that. I'm so happy for my dad for having met. And when we talked, I think Lisa and Tom might have both said it. They were in love. They were the right people for each other, and they made each other happy. They didn't want to go anywhere without each other. And one of the things I wrote down to say is, I was talking to Ann recently, and she said, when we were traveling, we took you all with us, not because we had to, but we wanted to. We wanted you with us. They loved the family, and they loved us being together. They took us amazing places, did amazing things. And how many kids get to fly in the Concorde and go stay at the Ritz and do that? And I wish I was a little older. I quite appreciated it at 12 years old. But, I thought it was pretty cool. But they wanted us with them. If they went, they really tried hard to take us with them, and that was a blessing. We knew we were loved. They knew we loved them. So, I have to look at Ann and my dad, and all of us as lucky and blessed to have been in this family and to be in the situation we were. So that's pretty much all I wanted to say. So I'll just fill the other 30 minutes just talking. But there is a reception afterwards, and I imagine they'll start early for us. It's going to be on a lawn outside, and we'll get to appreciate the wonderful weather and the views. Which I don't care how many times I come to Scottsdale here, I can't help but just be in awe of the natural beauty of the desert. So I hope you all join us, and thank you for coming. Did I miss any announcements, Lisa? That's it, so please join us outside. I'll do that.